Welcome to the Wild Pitch Podcast, hosted by Brian Gales, Jimmy Gales, Brian Dorsey, and Christopher Rojas.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Wild Pitch Podcast. I think today we're going to kind of dive into probably the most important thing that we do as an organization, and I think as a family with a player and a parent. We're going to talk about the recruitment process and just what that entails, and probably just give people real good inside information on everything they may not know to go through the process. And we are without Brian Dorsey, as you can see, for the people following on YouTube. But we do have a special guest today. We bring in Matt Marsh. He's the assistant coach over at Maine, and he comes from Orono. Matt, did I say that right? Orono, Maine?
Yeah, Orono.
Orono.
Yes, sir. Orono.
Yeah, you always got to know how to pronounce these towns. But
Right.
Matt, for us, was part of our organization, 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
Probably the reason we're still going was he really turned the corner for us, just with his social media presence, knowing every single player in the Northeast. And he's a very young guy. Matt, how old are you now?
26 now.
26.
Not
So
young any longer.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting old now.
he is getting a little old.
But it's almost fitting that he's the first guest that we have, right? Considering
Absolutely.
where this all started with the organization,
Yep.
and now he's on to his college coaching career. Your third year now coaching, right, Matt?
Yes, this is my third year up here.
And the guy's an absolute beast, isn't he?
Oh.
And we say that, we mean that, because first of all, when Matt was with us, he was intense and insane with how detailed he was with communication out to the parents, and just like you said, he knew every single player that there possibly was.
Well, let's call a spade a spade. He's a waste of talent, right? I mean, a guy is coaching baseball, but could probably be a millionaire in any other aspect of
Right,
life.
but he does this
There's
because
your first backhanded compliment of the night.
There you go. You know me.
well, he's so stubborn, so he loves the game so much he can't leave it alone.
Yeah,
so.
apparently I called him stubborn on the last podcast, and I stand by that statement. His
We're both
stubbornness.
stubborn. That's why we're coaching baseball still.
It was a big gain for University of Maine, but huge loss for
It was.
the Tri-State
that's-
Arsenal here.
Agreed 100%. But we're all happy to have you here, Matt. And I think you're really well versed in this whole recruitment thing, because prior to you leaving, you would go on these trips with these kids just to visit some of these colleges. So you knew what it was like sitting on in the chair per se with the student athlete, or the PSA as we call them, right? The potential student
Sure.
athlete. And now you're on the other side when the kid walks into the office. So I want to dive into that a little bit later, but before we do, like Jimmy said, this is a very important topic, and I think we're hoping to provide some information to the parents and equip them with some knowledge so that they can better understand what this recruitment process is. Brian's kind of fulfilled that role that you left now, Matt, and maybe we should start with Brian, just telling us all the platforms that we use for our guys, and and how we touch base with some of these coaches, and the relationships that you build now because of our backgrounds and such. So
Yeah, for each of our kids in our organization, we place them on field level, which is a platform where we can upload basically player reports, videos of the kid, whether it be us as an organization or the parents or players. And Matt, I mean, what's your experience with a platform like Field Level?
Sure. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm able to endorse it, but I will say that such platforms, a lot of coaches have reached out to us, and the more communication, the better, right? So, if you have somebody that's reaching out for you on your behalf, and you're taking action as well too, that's as much as really needs to be done from a recruiting standpoint, outside of making yourself the best player that you can be. And that's something that I definitely wanted to speak about tonight. But I get emails and emails and emails every day, as does our entire staff, from various websites or recruiting services, or just straight up emails, coming from their inbox to ours. But no, we deal with it all the time.
Yeah, and there's a few different ones out there, and I think it's just important. I mean, it's important for the families to know, the athletes to know, you don't have to go and spend a huge amount of money. Like our athletes they don't subscribe.
Right.
You know, it's a free service. You have the option to, but it's a platform where your videos can live. You can connect with these college coaches. You know, I think it's important for the parents and players to know that all it takes is a video with your phone.
Yeah.
100%.
It doesn't have to be,
100%.
right? And that's something to
Yeah.
touch on where
We should touch on that, yeah, because especially with all the money that's spent on showcases and all that, you know, and the video services that people provide, and not saying that maybe those are not useful tools or sources of you know, ways of going about it, but again, it can be as simple as a video from your iPhone.
and short and sweet, right?
Yeah.
As a college
Yeah.
coach, you guys don't want a 5-minute video. You don't need it.
Well, what I do, I mean, you guys can speak to it too. When we get a video from a kid, or I get it to my personal email, they're usually 3 to 4 minutes. If it's a position player, I look at 2 swings. I fast forward my finger to get it on my phone to 2 ground balls, or see him throw from the outfield, and I'm done. And I say, all right, we're gonna follow this kid or we're not, right? I mean,
Yeah, agreed. I think it's really that's simple.
It
you
is.
know? And so, like, you know, we don't need these long drawn out productions. Now I've heard other coaches, like, and I think this is our perspective maybe. You
Yeah.
know, and Matt, I mean you can share your perspective with, but I've heard other coaches who like the lengthier videos, you know? So
well, if you like the kid a lot, you're gonna watch the whole thing, right?
yeah, that's a good
Sure,
point.
but then,
Yeah.
then you could look at it the other way around. Like, you know, if you have to watch, you know, and I'm cut from the same cloth, I guess, in that idea too, in that, you know, you watch a couple swings, and you either know if, hey, this is somebody I want to go see play, or this is not somebody that I want to go see play.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're watching, you know, 3-4 minutes of the kid still taking swings, and you're not sure, you probably don't want to see the kid play.
Absolutely.
That's my take on it. That doesn't mean I'm right.
No, so you're right with us. I mean, you know, we're a
Yes.
Division II school, you're Division I. We got the same exact thought on it. I'd even heard about, you know, some people like say, hey, it says in the subject, this video is only 30 seconds long, and it prompts the coach to maybe open that because he's like, I got 30 seconds.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I've heard that's like a kind of a way to go about it.
Attention grabber. Almost,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sure, and I said the same thing in regard to, you know, what Brian was saying before about, and Chris, you just said it too, that, you know, it doesn't have to be a whole production on the film. Like back when I was working with you guys and meeting with parents and speaking to them about it, because there's plenty of services out there, and I'm not talking negatively about anything like that, but you know, you can literally take a film on your phone and send it out. If the actions are good and the gameplay is good, or whatever it might be, looks good to a coach, that's what matters. You know, it's not the $1,000 on a camera or the amount of money you're spending on a production team or a video editing service. It's the content that matters. You know.
Yeah, it's the player's skill level.
Exactly.
Right,
Oh.
that's what you're hoping to, I guess, portray when you're capturing
Yeah.
the video.
And the way I look at it is an athlete they control their own destiny, right? They put the time in, the effort, they become a better player. So, you know, you can want to go to D1, you know, down south, all these things that we hear every day.
Yeah.
You have to be able to play. You have
That's
to
right.
put the time in.
I think
And that's number one.
I think that's a great thought. And before we end this,
Mhm.
I want you to elaborate on that a little bit more today, because that's an excellent point. You know, I think what we should probably do is maybe just start talking about, like, because obviously, what's the first thing everybody's trying to attain? What are they trying to achieve? It's a scholarship, right? Everybody wants that scholarship from a university. They want to be recruited and go on to the next level and be, you know, provided with the financial means, you know, from either it be academically or athletically, you know, theoretically, right? So, I think parents need to know what does a scholarship mean, right? And it's different for every level, right, Matt? I mean, so like for instance, you know, Matt, he's at the Division I level. and across the board, the most scholarships any Division I school can have is, what is it, 11.7, Matt? Is that what it is?
11.7, yes, sir, across 27 players.
So,
and the minimum is 25% if you are to receive.
So go ahead, Matt. Give us, because this is where you live. This is your space. Talk about that. Like, you know, the whole, you know, the scholarship, you know, and what it means to you, and you know, and the allocation of that, and you know, so and obviously, you know, I want you to maybe also remind parents there's no such thing as 100% baseball scholarship. You know, like talk about that.
Sure. So. We look at our, and I'm not, you know, I don't think I'm speaking out of line here and giving away our secrets or anything, but, you know, we look at our scholarships basically on, you know, when can a player go and help us, right? So if a guy is, you know, somebody that we think can help us earlier on in their college career rather than later, that's how we're going to appropriate our money. In my time here, and from what I've seen, and just being around other people as well too, you know, you're not seeing full scholarships, you know, just for athletic means. You know, if you do, it's extraordinarily rare. But you may see some if, you know, like we have a flagship program. Our flagship program is if you have over a 3.0 or 11.20, you can receive academic money. If you have either a 3.5, a 12.70, or 27 on your ACT, or your top 10% in the class, one of those four criteria, then you can combine athletic money and academic money. So that's where packages can be pretty sizable, and that's where you can really, you know, you take a 30-40% scholarship, you get 35% academic money, now you're looking in that, you know, 65 to 75% range, or if you're a higher end player, you might be looking at more. But I do want to kind of backtrack that statement a little bit and talking about, you know, that's where we project, our scholarship money is where we project where the player is going to be when he comes in. That doesn't necessarily mean much once the kid's there.
Right.
You know, the best player is going to play, period. And I've seen countless walk-ons come on in.
Yeah.
And
I was one of those guys one time.
Early on, earn an opportunity within their first 2 years, earn an opportunity in their third year. Some of them have been our captains, and some of them get rewarded with scholarships over time as well too, as a reward for their performance both on the field and off.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that's an awesome point to kind of, for parents to also digest, because you know, in situations in which, you know, not everybody's going to get that scholarship to start, right? And if you believe in yourself and coaches are going to be honest with you as a walk-on. You know, listen, you know, this is what we typically, they'll tell you, this is what we think about you, you know, and they'll let you know if there's an opportunity. And then, like you, that kind of circles back to what you said, then you make your own, you know, your own destiny, right? You kind of figure out how you fit in after that, you know. But Matt, in addition to, like, you know, so for instance, I don't know if you guys, is Maine a fully funded school?
Yes, so we're fully funded. We have 11.7 scholarships, and not all Division I's are fully funded. In fact, you know, some other schools in our conference are not fully funded. You know, we play in the same conference, you know, and they're not. There are a couple that are not.
Right.
So there's several that, you know, might be operating with 5 scholarships, and you know, they have to, you know, allocate that money appropriately. You know, and some, you know, different programs have different strategies. Some are going to be very pitcher top heavy. In their scholarship allocation. Some are going to be going after catchers and shortstops and guys up the middle of the field. Some are going to be a mix in between. So, you know, it all depends on what that coaching staff's philosophy is on their scholarship allocation.
Right. So, that, you know, I think that's the one thing parents need to know. There's not, you know, just because a Division I level program is allowed to have 11.7 scholarships, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have it. You know, we've ran it, even through our recruiting process. Like Brian, you ran into schools that when we were dealing with a student who wanted to go to Lafayette, right? They really struggle in terms of being able to.
Yeah, very limited.
Yeah, right.
Scholarship. Yeah.
You know.
Well, we have some people that are Division II powerhouses we play, a couple friends of ours. You know, I won't say who they are to hurt them, but they don't have a lot of scholarships, and it's even more of a credit as a coach, like what that guy does with that lack.
Right.
But, you know, one thing I just wanted to touch on, and Matt, I think you might agree, I know, like, for Chris and I and Kat at Tech, and our staff that, you know, any kid that we bring on as a recruited walk-on, we truly feel that guy has upside to be something.
Absolutely.
It's not doing any favors. They have a tool, they have a skill that we're like, yeah, this guy, we don't have the money anymore. The kid wants to come there, but we see him as like, he could be a starter for us, and we truly believe that in every recruited walk-on we have.
Agreed. Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
100%. Like I heard last year, Pat Casey said it at the ABCAs down in Dallas, and he said that walk-ons are not the last player on our roster here at Oregon State. They're the guys that make a difference in our roster. They're the difference makers. Because if you think about it, like if you spend 60% on a guy, or you spend 40, whatever it might be, whatever is considered a big scholarship for that respective school, that guy should be good. You know, and you're going to miss our guys here and there, but that guy should be good. The walk-on is the guy that wants to be at that school. He's not deciding because of financial means. He's deciding because that's the school he wants to be at. And that usually speaks a lot of volumes to his work ethic and just his passion for being at the school, and that usually makes a difference. For us, it's trying to find the guys that want to be here, are not just choosing us because of limited options or best offer or whatever it might be. It's they want to play for the University of Maine, or they want to play for whatever school it is that they go to. Those are the guys that I feel like do the best.
That's a great point. That's a great point. You know, quickly, also, you know, we discussed here about the scholarships at the Division I level. Us, obviously, we're very adverse with the Division II level. And just to kind of educate our audience and our families and whoever else might, you know, potentially tuning in, you know, Division II, the most you can have is 9 scholarships.
Yes.
And it's a little bit different than like the D1 level. Like D1, you have to have minimum 25% allocated to a player, and it's only spread out against 27 players, and then they have a maximum of a 35-man roster.
So wait, just explain that a little slower, because I think that's really, really important. So at New York Tech, we can give any amount of money. We can give 2% to a kid.
Correct.
Where Matt has to give, if he gives a penny, it has to be 25% minimum.
Yep.
So we can't cut kids up and you know, divvy out money to everybody. But you could have a 40-man roster, only 27 players.
No, they can only have a 35-man roster.
They can only have a 35-man roster.
Yeah,
we can do unlimited.
Yes.
Only 27 are allowed to receive 25% or greater scholarship.
Right. So at least 8 guys will be, if you have a full roster, 8 guys will be walk-ons.
Now, for you, do they tell you how many you can travel with, or you can bring all 35 if you have the funding?
It depends on the budget of the school.
Right. Okay.
But we typically travel anywhere from 30 to 32. That also depends on the guarantee that we're getting. You know, basically, when you go down and travel somewhere, they're paying for it. I'm sure you guys do the same thing. They're paying for your hotel, or they might be giving you some sort of financial guarantee.
Yeah.
But based on what that trip looks like, that's how many seats we can afford to get.
So let me get back to this whole D1, D2 scholarship environment, and even D3, right? So now the D2, you're at 9. And that's if you're fully funded. Again, not everybody is fully funded.
Well, how about the ECC conference we're in? I don't think there's any team that's fully funded.
Not that we're aware of.
The few people we've spoken to, no one's fully funded.
Right. And so, you know, so parents need to understand that there's limited resources sometimes for some of these programs.
Yep.
You know, and you know, the one good thing about the Division II level, as you were intimating, is that you can break it up however potentially you see fit, right? You don't, you're not bound by that 25%, you know. Now at the Division III level, there is no athletic scholarships. There are no athletic scholarships. They can only give out the academic awards, and you know this, Brian. Like you said, they only have academic awards for their incoming students, you know. So, Brian, like you being the guy, and you mentioned this earlier, Matt. You kind of touched on this on like the package thing, but Brian, talk about how important the academics is.
Huge. I mean, it's one of the first things that the college coaches ask. What are his grades? Because when you're limited, even at the Division I and Division II level with athletic scholarships, right? If 2 kids are equal, and you know you can get the one kid more academic money, you have a better chance at that kid, right? So he's more attractive. It's just it's another way scenario where the kids control their own destiny.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think the kids realize how important school and the good grades.
You're so right, because how often do they come to us by the time they're juniors and their GPAs are 2.7, right? They're scoring, maybe they take the PSAT, or if they've taken the SAT, they're at 1,000, and you're like, man, if you just would have put a little more effort into this, just take that 2.7 to a 3.0, that's thousands of dollars that these people don't, right? We talk about this.
Yeah.
That's literally thousands of dollars. That 0.3 of a difference in their GPA, and obviously that's over their high school career. But that is real tangible money.
Well, how many kids we signed? 2 kids in the last year that basically we gave them a nice baseball package and we told them they had a minimum SAT, so they had to go to their course. But if they got 30 points on their SAT, 30, both kids, it opened up $68,000 for their family over the 4 years.
4 year time, yeah.
So we said, listen, we're not giving you the school's not giving you that academic unless you get that 30 points. So they kind of bet on themselves to go get those 30 points, and it's very attainable, the 30, and they both did. But had they not, you're talking $70,000, and it was something that they didn't deem important at the time. They didn't take any prep courses. So a lot of prep courses guarantee 100 points. So.
Yeah. And aside from that, I mean, just the scholarship money that those academics are opening up, but the coaches look at those kids differently.
Yeah.
A kid that does well in school, chances are he's going to work hard on the field as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
School's the tough part.
And you're not going to necessarily have to worry about that kid as much, or at least you shouldn't. From an academic standpoint, we have a lot of academic support here at Maine, but it's a very difficult thing, and it can be an extreme headache. When you have a kid that you invested money into, and he skated by just enough to get into the school, and he's borderline eligible. So having those higher academic kids, like you're saying, speaks volumes to how hard they work in the classroom and off the field, and it's better a lot of times for culture as well too, and that's something that we've seen change in the last 2 years.
Right. Yeah. No, it's paramount. Bottom line is this: your academics are paramount. I mean, look, we parents. It's not just on the athletics side. We talk about that. If you're a parent, you're always talking to your kids about doing well in school, right? But it's just opens so many more opportunities for you when you are killing it in the classroom and you're an athlete. You really can. You kind of write your own, your own ticket. You know what I mean, as to where you want to go. Then obviously your talents, those open up some more doors. But you already got one foot in somewhere if you can do well academically. So. Those parents out there, we understand some of the challenges, kids face on the academic side. I think one of the things we should advise our parents is, get these kids taking those tests earlier than, I guess, what the scheduled time is supposed to be. A lot of times they wait till that spring of their junior year,
Sure.
They should probably start thinking about taking those exams, their sophomore year. And now they're a little they're prepping themselves earlier, right? And then now if they don't do, let's say they don't knock it out of the park the first time, well then they can take it again. And then some institutions take the super score. They'll take the 2 best parts of your SAT, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so then you got that possibly, working on your side. And then the other thing is this: say you don't do well, say you kind of stay flat. Well, then maybe that tells you should go take the other test, right? So if you took the SAT. And you kind of stay flatline, well then maybe go take the ACT and maybe you score better and maybe you test better on that one, right? So I think taking the test earlier is so much more beneficial for the student athlete to kind of identify where they're maybe missing the mark at academically. And then even for like a really high academic school, like Maine's a pretty good academic school. So like for you guys are also targeting sophomores, right? So for you to know where their baselines are at on the academic side as it relates to the testing, I'm sure that's got to be valuable information for you as well.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're looking at and recruiting's gotten earlier in some respects, and I think that it's starting to shift back the other way a little bit, and hopefully it continues to do so. But you're looking at a sophomore or a junior that hasn't taken his exams yet. That can be difficult to evaluate. Really, where is he at? And it makes a big difference. So if a kid's taking his test and he has his marks to receive our flagship program and be NCAA exempt and receive depending on what state he is in, 30 to 40% academic money, then we could tell a kid potentially, hey, you're going to get 80% here because you're going to get 40% baseball and 40% academic money. But if we don't know that, then we're saying, hey, you have 40%. This is what you would get if you got to this. You need to get to this. Keep us posted with that. And we don't have all the available information. And, it's tough to also make a commitment on the other side of things. Speaking from a player and family situation, if you don't know all the available information to you. And I do want to go a little along those lines with a little bit further with how being a qualifier, so say on the lower end, to be a Division I qualifier, you have to have a 2.5 and 1,000. Now, it's a sliding scale, so if you have a 2.3 and you're above 1,000, say 1080, 1,100, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but, so it's a sliding scale, so if you were 2.3 and 1,100, then you'd be a qualifier, I believe. But without taking those tests, if you're a 2.6 and it's unweighted, it's not a weighted GPA, it's an unweighted GPA, if you have a 2.6, you might not even be a Division I qualifier and not even know it yet.
Right.
And now you might be, spending time and money going to different prospect camps and different events and talking to different coaches, and you might even commit to one of those schools and then go ahead and take your SAT and find out that you're not a qualifier.
Right.
So I think that that's very important to understand where you stand from a testing perspective early on in your high school career.
That's a great bit of information right there. It's again, the academics, man. We kids can't just say how valuable they are. We've seen situations. I mean, even for us, where we've had to kind of walk back on a guy because he can't get it done. And like you said, the financial implications for some of these families, Matt. Right? I mean, they're hoping to get every single penny that they possibly can. So
absolutely.
Just those, keep that in mind out there, folks, when you're listening, and just how invaluable it is for you guys to really just be great students, and and it just says something about you also. Like you said, just kind of. And we know there's some people who, it doesn't mean that they're bad character if they're not doing well in class. There's other challenges at times.
Oh, yeah.
But get your resources, right? Go find a resource that'll help you. Hopefully, you're in a situation where that's available. So.
Sure. Can I say one more thing on the academic side of things?
Of course, man. Go ahead.
Because I think that this is actually a great. I say this to every kid that comes around. I typically take our guys around on tours. When recruits come for on-campus recruitment, I take a lot of them around. I say this to pretty much every one of them, because every kid that I take around wants to play professional baseball and has dreams of doing so. I'm not plugging our program or anything, but we've had 6 guys in the last 2 years, and that's something that we're very happy about. And we hope every one of them goes on to play professionally for a long time.
Chugga chugga toot toot.
But what I'm going with that is that a slim few get the opportunity, as you guys know, to play professional baseball. And even slimmer few get the opportunity to do that for a career.
Right.
And many people that are lucky enough and get way further than anybody hoped and dreamed to get to end up having to have a career in something other than baseball.
Agreed.
So understanding that component of education, it can get lost a lot of the time when you're receiving a scholarship or when you're getting attention from these schools, because that degree is going to be with you for the rest of your entire life.
Right.
And picking the school that is right for you is I think is a huge piece on your priority list. As far as their academic programs, as far as job placements and different things that they have available at the school.
Yep. You know what, Matt? That actually leads to one of the other things that we want to talk about, identifying where you want to go, right? And Brian, what's the first challenge in that, you think, when kids need to identify where they want to go, or parents, or or when they ask you?
You can probably talk about the lists you get from the families.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Yeah, the first list from really every kid in our organization is going to be ACC schools, SEC, Big Ten. You know,
Right.
it's like
It's a March Madness bracket.
yeah, all the schools you see on TV every Saturday, and it's like wow, you know. And I think you know they have to find a blend of the academics, the athletics. What does the kid want? Does he want a huge school? Does he want to travel? How far away? You know, and we get I want to, you know, for the Northeast kids, I want to go down south.
That's like the big thing, right?
Yeah.
I gotta
Since we
go
were
down
kids.
south.
Yeah.
Down south.
I
the
gotta
most
go
common
down.
thing.
It didn't matter where.
No.
I'm gonna go to Podunk Town and Appalachian, whatever. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that like that. But you know, I gotta get down south just because the weather's warmer. That's all it is. That's really the rationale.
No
right?
idea.
It's the dream, right? Since for 50 years that we know, you know, it's just.
Yeah, and you know, not enough of the families and kids do the research. You know, like we're talking about, they hear these big names. I want to play there. They know nothing about the school, the area, what they offer in terms of, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wanted to go to Arizona State, right? So we all think really highly of our game, no matter what.
Yeah. I
Right?
still do. Yeah.
Yeah. But Pat Murphy was the coach at the time, and I remember I was like emailing this guy when I was 5'3", 85 pounds. Then I was emailing him when I was 5'4" and 110. I was graduating, and I'm like, I could play at Arizona State, right? But he didn't really write back. I was gonna fly out to go to his camp, but what's interesting about it is at 18, there was no chance, right? But then when I signed with the Dodgers,
You were just as good as.
I'm starting over the
Yeah.
Arizona State shortstop
Yeah.
at
I love
22,
I love that.
right?
Yeah.
So I went to the higher level, he went to the lower level, and I had a better career
That's awesome.
than the guy that I would have competed with there. And he was a great player. I just, you know,
But that's, you know what? But that's, and I think that's like identifying where you really belong, because let's just say you reach your pinnacle of going to Arizona State.
right.
Now you gotta play.
Oh,
Now you gotta play and produce, and now you gotta be the guy. That's another challenge.
well, and again, it happened with me, right? Again, I go to get my scholarship to New York Tech my junior year after junior college, and what happens, you remember Jason Tolero
Yeah.
leaves St. John's and goes to South Florida.
Yeah. He was a first round.
He
pick.
ended up being a first round pick.
Yeah.
So now, as I'm about to go to Tech, there's an opening at St. John's. And me, I loved St. John's baseball. You know why? Because I could go to the store and buy a St. John's sweatshirt. I can watch the St. John's basketball team. So for me, it's like, wait. And I had somebody in my ear saying, St. John's, you can play there and they need a shortstop. And what happens, I call Blankmeyer, and Blankmeyer, the stud he is, right? He goes, Jimmy, I know you're really good, you know, but, you know, Bob Hirschfield over at New York Tech's my great friend. I'm not going to tamper with him. He goes, but, you know, you do what you got to do, but I can't talk to you. He goes, obviously you'd be a fit, whatnot, but, so I go, and I call Hirschfield, because I'm like, I'm going to St. John's.
Right. You made up your mind.
I'm going there. And Hirschfield, like, the credit to him, he spun my head around for like a half hour, and he goes, I'll see you at that team meeting in a couple weeks. And I was like, I just told you I'm not coming to you. And I was like, okay, I'll go to Tech. But at the same time, my thought process was Giancarlo DePrima was there, who we had played against that summer. Really good defender, similar player to me. And I said, I go to a great baseball program with Coach Hirschfield, New York Tech, and I know I'm the guy. I am playing every day. Or I go to St. John's, I probably beat him out maybe, but I don't know. What if I have a bad couple of weeks? What if the pressure gets to me, right?
Right.
And at that time I said, yeah, I am going to go to that meeting. I am going to New York Tech because that was a better fit for my career
Yeah.
to develop.
Right. So that's the whole thing, right, brother? You gotta identify, and for parents it's tough, right? Because there's a reach, right? And it's okay. I think it's okay to have like that reach school, you know. But your whole list can't be full of those reach schools, right? You gotta. Not everybody's a D1 player.
No.
Right? And look, even the D2 level's it's not a cupcake anymore. You know what I mean? It's like.
No, it's awesome to have goals. It's you want the kids to say, I want to play at this big time school, but when it comes down to it, you got to be realistic, and you're gonna know if you're a Miami, Florida State, you know, because everyone's reaching out to you.
Sure, and just taking the opportunity to. I mean, there's so many schools in your area, right? And I'm from the same area. Like, there's so many schools on Long Island, Division I, Division II, Division III, JUCO. You go watch the teams play. Go see what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not having seen them play, you know, it's impossible for you to know what that level of play looks like.
Yeah, and the reality is, Division I players there's few and far
between. Agreed.
That's the reality of
Agreed.
it.
You know what, Matt? What are there? 270 Division I schools? I'm probably off by a little bit. What's the number?
I think it's a little bit. Higher.
It's about 300, right?
Oh,
Yeah, I think it's right at 300.
Yeah.
Right at 300. Okay, and then I think
believe so.
D2 is 250, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it sounds about
So
right.
you think about that. Just think about just those two levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
And think about not every school is fully funded, right? So you can start eliminating opportunities there, and you think about across the country, how many kids are all vying for the same opportunity, right? Or potential opportunity, right? So yeah, not everybody can compete or get that chance to play at that level, right? So that's where you got to open up your, I guess, your spectrum of where you should or could possibly play. And we also know this. There's the other programs, D2 level programs that are top-notch programs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, you're right though. There's Division II programs that are very good. There's Division III programs
Absolutely.
that are very good.
Yeah.
There's
Think
junior
about a
college
Cortland.
programs
Think
that
about how
turn
good a
out players
Cortland is.
all the time.
Think about how good a Cortland is, right, Matt? I mean,
Sure.
and that's a D3 school, right? Think about NAIA, how some of those schools are really, really talented,
Right.
And then think about JUCO, how some of those,
Sure.
you know, and I think we'll get to that JUCO stuff.
Yeah.
You can elaborate on that pretty good because your career, and then obviously you know, like you said before, how people look at the JUCO level. They're not really adverse on that, you know.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Matt, I was saying to a family tonight how, you know, you got a kid throwing 80 miles an hour, and you're from Long Island, and you don't want to go D3. That was their thing. I don't want to play Division III. I said, well, you have Stony Brook, who has made themselves just a legitimate Division I program. You have Hofstra has been improving every year, and you got St. John's as a national power. So you're not going Division I throwing 80 miles an hour, and then your two options for Division II are right now top 25 in the country. So you're in a tough spot. You got to leave here. You're not in your backyard just going to a school anymore where, you know, I can play there. It's you got to get out of here almost now.
Right.
Because Dowling ended up, you know, closing, and
Right.
there's been some options that have left us.
Right.
And you know, the other schools have gotten better programs. So
Right. Yep.
it's not an easy thing. But I will say this, and Brian, you know, whether we have a 17-year-old A team, a 17-year-old B team, we say it all the time, there is a spot for everybody, right? There, if you continue to work and you're pretty good player, you know, you're just a solid performer,
That's a great point.
you're going to find a spot. We found a spot for everybody that wanted to play.
Right. As long as they,
Yeah.
as long as they open up their eyes and embrace the opportunity.
And they stayed
Yeah,
with it.
as long as they want to play and show it and put the work in,
Right.
there's going to be a
And
spot.
speaking to putting the work in, like, not only just putting the work in up until commitment, putting the work in then after as well too.
Yeah.
You know, I think that happens a lot, and that speaks to what Jimmy, you were saying about the T-shirt idea. You know, and many kids just want to say, hey, I'm going to this school so they can tell their friends I'm going to this school because that school went to, now I'm going to plug you guys to the Division II College World Series. Or, you know, they want to tell their friends, oh, I'm going to play in this conference or this level or this or that. No, the work needs to continue, you know, until you get there and then through when you're there.
Right.
You know, and that's a lot of what we see a lot of the time. Again, speaking generalities, but you know, you see a lot of kids that, you know, just want to tell people that they're going to a school, not want to go to the school because that's where they want to be, that's where they want to play, that's the education that they want, those are the coaches that they want to be around, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's the optics, right? It looks.
Yes.
Yeah, once you get on campus, it's a dogfight. I mean,
exactly.
You got to be ready to go. And we've seen it this past year. A bunch of Long Island kids go to big schools, they come back home.
Right.
Almost everybody comes home. It's not even their fault. It's just the reality of them not being ready to compete at that level yet. You know, they just.
I think that's the key word.
Mentally a lot of the time too.
They have the skill set.
Yeah. You see it all the time, and you know, you see these freshmen that come on in. And obviously they've had a tremendous amount of success. That's why they're here in the first place. You know, and they begin to, instead of being the best player on their respective high school team or travel team or whatever, or Legion team, whatever it might be, you know, then they're surrounded by other people that are also very good. And they start to question everything that they do. And, you know, they might be really good. They might have been really good, so nobody ever tried to teach them anything because they were really good. They just kind of let them be. Hey, let him be. Don't mess him up. And then they start getting taught a couple things, and they don't know how to react, and they lose their identity. So that comes back to it as well too. So there's a maturation process, in definitely going to school, and I think that's something that's definitely that high school players need to be aware of.
Yeah,
we
see it now at Tech. The guys that been blowing smoke up their butt, for every year because they're the big fish, like you said. And then you just tell them, like, they need to improve something. And it's like the first time they've ever been told anything negative. And, Chris and I look at videos all the time of some animals. I think, Matt, you actually sent me a video of a kid. He goes, what do you think? I'm like, well, that's just a different guy. And you're like, well, he's projected to go in the first round. And I said, he's on a different planet than the superstar on Long Island. We're just not capable of being that yet around here. But the best player on Long Island, whoever that may be right now, he thinks he's on his way to the big leagues. But he's not even near what he needs to be.
Yeah, because there's a road, right? There's a process, And that's why, like you said before, you talked about this before, Matt, like picking the place you're going to spend, ideally if you think and you are capable of playing at the next level, 3 years to 4 years, right? Minimum 3 years, right? Minimum. If you're that good. And a lot of times 4 years, picking the right place where you're gonna either develop over that span of time, right, is very it's vital to your future if you have those types of abilities, right? So even just for success, right? For your your overall development and sometimes that's not only the development on the field, that's like the development of the person, right? Like who's the coach you're playing for? Is he gonna help you become a young man and a great contributor to society in some ways? And people forget how important that is as a coaching staff and how we look at a kid too. You know what I mean? So there's so many variables to the whole decision process of where you're gonna play. You can't just get caught up in the whole scholarship thing and the whole name brand thing. You gotta do some homework. And ideally, what's great, I think, about having a guy like Brian is that he knows everybody.
Right.
He literally knows everybody from every big time school, right? To through your other connections through other endeavors that you have, through your playing career, right? Through the whole recruiting thing. So all these personalities, right? I mean, what are those guys like?
No, yeah, it's definitely, just from playing, I have ex-teammates that are college coaches, doing this now for, I guess, 5 years we've been doing the teams. Modus, we work with over 100 NCAA programs. So it's a little bit of a combination where I'm a health arm care consultant to these teams, but then also can speak to them about players, you know, and who we have, and learning from them, you know, what they're looking for, what's important. So yeah, the relationships that we have, even just as a group, or you know, I mean, it's very easy to pick up the phone and talk to any really coach in the country. You know, they're gonna take the call. But it's really that, and it comes down to the players being able to play there.
Right.
You know,
if you can play there, we can get you there.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't, it doesn't matter if the guys are best friend.
Right. And you're not gonna call in that favor either. That's the other thing that people. So like the whole, like when we have the conversation and we're trying to help people identify, you know, ideally identify where they should play. And Matt, you used to do this a lot with us, right?
Yeah.
Trying to steer people to places that we think are better fits, either because we think it makes sense for them in the long run, or we know a little background on the coaching staff, right? And when you're trying to, it's a delicate situation, right? Because you're trying to help them, but it's a perceived negative because you're not all in on the same dream that they possibly have of playing at some elite program, right? And so that's a challenge, you know. And you know, I think as you know, kids, you know, and parents are getting into this whole stage of their high school careers, you have to really be mindful of what other opportunities there are outside of the really, you know, the reach like we talked about before. So it's
Yeah, I mean, so I think it'd be important, I mean, if just almost like to wrap it up for a parent, like what are 4 or 5 things that they should take out of this, that they can, whether the kid's a freshman right now, even younger, like to almost start that process, things to start thinking about, so they're prepared for it.
Yeah.
You know, grades are important. You want
first thing.
Yeah, and it starts your freshman year of high school.
Yeah, because that's your foundation, right?
Yeah. I mean, and just being a good player. Do you want to play college baseball? It's not putting in the time when you're a junior in high school. It's too late.
Right.
You know, it's kind of that process starts early.
Right.
You know, a lot of times we talk to our kids about college and it's too late.
Yeah.
I
think that's our biggest hurdle. And I think hopefully this starts to help kind of stop that trend. You know, like getting this information. But I think that's our biggest hurdle sometimes. Like it's too late. By the time you've come to us,
you're already slow.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to be running and doing stuff and the strength training, all that, younger ages. You know, and it's important. Then, you know, at what point do they start to look at the schools? And, you know, it kind of stinks to be a 14, 15-year-old kid and somebody's asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
All right. What college you want to go
I still don't know.
Yeah.
Sure. You know, it's not easy, but it's something you have to think about.
Yeah, especially if this is meaningful, right? I said this over the summertime. I think maybe we had our camp and I talked to the parents, and you know, I always want to kind of shoot it straight. You know, like your kid tells you he wants to do something, right? And by all accounts, these parents love their kids, and they're gonna try and help them, right? But you know, I don't know how much they're challenging them. In other words, what I mean by that is, you said this the other in one of the episodes about the commitment that parents make financially, right? And that's a big commitment for a lot of people. And when you take your kid and you're paying X amount of dollars for him to compete, and there's this notion or idea that he wants to play collegiately, right? And you're trying to help fulfill that, and you spend the financial resources that you have to try to help. But you see your kid on the field and he's walking to his position.
Right.
He's not paying attention to the game. What's he doing on his spare time, right? And I said, you know, essentially, if you're not really about that life, then this is not really that meaningful to you. This is more of a hobby per se. Right? So that's the other thing that I think parents need to do, is really challenge their kids. And I'm not saying pull the plug on them if they're doing that, but hey, you gotta nudge them. Hey, this is what you really want. That's not gonna fly, man. You know?
Yeah.
That's not gonna fly. You know? So, I think one of the other things I wanted to go into, and Matt, your insight here I think would be useful.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about the exposure thing, like events, showcases, going to the school's team camp, right?
Sure.
You know, because I think that gets a bad rap sometimes. The team camp, like a lot of organizations or people say it's just a money grab.
Sure.
But you and I know this. We signed a kid on the spot at our own team camp, right? And Matt, I know you guys do a good job over there at Maine. Like, talk about that. Like, so.
Sure. I mean, we've offered now. I think it's because at our last 9 camps, 20 of our offers, stems from seeing them at that camp. And it might have been the first time we've seen them. It might have been multiple times that we've seen them. I think that, and I want to answer that question about events and exposure with what Brian said as well. In his second point about being a good player, not just being a good player, being a good baseball player. I think that it's really a flawed system in so many capacities, and it's nobody's fault. It's not the player's fault. It's not the coach's fault. It's not the event's fault either. In my opinion, we see a guy sometimes in a pro style workout. We see him and he's good, and you know that hey, if I don't make a move here, somebody else might, and I might miss out on an opportunity to get a good player. The whole early bird gets the worm theory. And then you might fall into, and Jack Leggett said this, and I really liked it. He talks about, you might be the early bird gets the worm, or you might be, the second mouse gets the cheese type of deal, where you wait and then you find something and the first mouse gets killed. So, like, we sometimes see a kid in a pro-style workout or a showcase or something like that, and we don't necessarily know if he's a good player.
Right, you get excited, but you don't know enough, right? What is he?
We don't know.
Yeah.
We see his 60 time. We see him take a couple rounds of BP. We might like him mechanically. We might like him as an athlete, but is he a good baseball player? Is he the type of guy that's going to run out to his position? I'm going to speak a lot of cliches, but these cliches are true. Is he a guy that's going to run the bases properly? Is he a guy that knows where he's supposed to be on the baseball field?
Right.
I'll take a kid like that can play the game and play it hard. And I'd rather have that kid because we can teach that kid. That kid wants to work. That kid wants to be good, and that kid's going to win, rather than the prospect of the kid that is just very talented from a tools perspective, but has no idea what he's doing to play the game, and has been told that he's really good because he throws 90 miles an hour, or because he hits the ball further than everybody else. And he's not going to be, and this is generality, obviously there's exceptions to everything, but he's not going to be as accepting to a lot of the information a lot of the time. I want the kid that wants to compete. I want the kid that
we want
wants to be a good player. So making yourself the best player and learning how to play the game the right way, I think is the number 1 priority. Actually, number 2 priority, falling behind education, but is high on that priority list on exposure. Not necessarily what events you're going to, who you're calling, what's going on. If you're not good, and we used to say this all the time, if you're not good enough, you can play in front of everybody. They're still not going to like you.
Right.
But to add to that, with these, the college camps. I mean, having the opportunity to go to a camp at Maine, you see the school.
Sure.
A lot of times they're multiple days, so
yeah,
very wise.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I agree, and you're getting to interact with the coaching staff, so those opportunities are great. Anytime I can interact with a kid on the field, and teach him something and see how he responds to it, and that the kid's actually interested in the school too, because he's come on up to the school as it is, and taking them around on the tour, allowing them to see it, and they just get a better feel for what's going on there.
Sure.
So some of we had one camp where 6 of our players ended up coming from. We've had a bunch that our freshman and sophomore classes are not just from those camps, but some of them have been. And a lot of those kids are high character, high working kids, and I think it starts with wanting to go to the school in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what the flip side of that for the kid and the school is you get those kids that are constantly emailing you, you do your prospect camp, and they come. And at least you can, for the kids' sake, you can go, you know what, I got in front of them, they don't like me, and I can move on now. We had a lot of those guys. You know, a lot of pitchers came in, said, hey, you're just not a fit here. We have a full roster. And at least they can move on because kids hold on to any little string, you know. We're all friends, right? A lot of the college coaching circuit, and you know, we'll have players in our organization say, I have interest from X school, and you're like, well, let me call my buddy, and he's like, who is that? I don't know who that kid is. But he sent,
the prospect camp email.
maybe he got an email, and they run with it, and you know, Dad's telling his buddies at work that he's getting a scholarship, and the school doesn't even know who the kid is.
Right.
But we do that too often.
Right.
You know, kids especially do it with the draft, right?
Oh yeah.
The scout says one positive thing. That's it. You're signing for 2.5 in 2 years.
Well, we have 3 college coaches here, so I have a question for you guys. Who do you want contacting you? Is it the parents or the kid?
The kid 100% of the time.
Because you're recruiting the kid. Now, we might ask to speak with the family, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. I know that some coaches just, you know, in speaking to other people, don't want to talk to the family at all. But we sometimes will ask to because we want to know, you know, about the family, where the kid comes from, you know, and make the family feel comfortable at times. But the kid should be the one that's reaching out. I've had a bunch of parents reach out to me directly. I've had a bunch of parents reach out to, you know, our staff. Like, we're recruiting the kid to come here.
Exactly. And so when you have those calls, you also want to be talking to the kid.
Unless we ask to speak to the parent. Yes.
Yeah, but sometimes they're both on the call, right? You want.
Sure, and I understand it sometimes when the kid is young. Like, if the kid is, and let me define young. Like, if the kid is a freshman or a sophomore and it's the first time he's ever been on the phone with a college coach, okay. You know, like, I don't think very negatively of that. But if he's, you know, a junior, senior, whatever it might be, or he's actively been recruited and the parent starts getting on the phone multiple times, you know, that's usually not a great sign.
Well, Matt, you probably, I mean, obviously, we won't share who, but you'll recall we had a really, really talented player here who a school almost pulled the offer because the parent was just too involved in that process, or with that, you know, in terms of interrupting conversations, not allowing the kid to speak for himself.
Right.
You know, those things happen, man. It's like.
Well, what is a well-respected guy in our area told us? He recruits the families now more than ever.
We were talking about that,
Yeah.
right? Well, like you know, it used to be the 3 things you said. The first thing, what do the coaches ask you? They ask you what's the academics, right?
Yeah.
And then what do they ask you?
Can he play?
And then what type of kid is he, right?
Yep.
And then now what are they asking? They're like, they want to know.
Yeah.
What are the parents like?
Yep.
Sure.
And
I hate beating a dead horse, but the kids that want to come and play here, you know, you see the same thing in travel baseball as well too. Like, I remember we used to sit down with a bunch of people and try and get them to come on over and play for us, come play for us, come play for us. And the people that we had to sit down with and meet with and take extra time, you know, and make extra phone calls to, none of those kids, and I hate saying this, but, you know, just to be honest, you know, the return on investment wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it wasn't worth it. I'd rather have somebody that would come on in that wants to be here. And the same thing goes for college recruiting. You know, like, if we're chasing around a kid and having to convince him to be here, you know, and topping other schools' offers, and he's trying to, you know, basically play, you know, car sales. And
Right, he's trying to leverage himself. Yeah.
Yes, you know, then what are we doing?
Yeah, and it's in the last couple of years, I've had some coaches. You know, it's a red flag when they see a kid that's wearing a different jersey every season or every year.
You hear
and
that a lot.
They ask you about it.
That's
the loyalty. Yeah, because it's a culture thing. It's a
commitment.
Yeah.
They're not going to quit a team because things aren't going their way. They're not trying, you know, so. Yeah, it's
or badmouth people, right? And it's funny because, you know, like you said, it's a small world. You start talking bad about somebody. So.
Well, I've seen that a bunch of times too. Like, sometimes you'll be walking around campus and You ask about, how's the high school team doing? How's this going on? And, you'd be like, I'm sure you've seen it too. People will openly speak about, speak negatively about some of their coaches and some of the people that they're around. And that's the first impression they're making. It's not necessarily a positive one.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, just to show like the audience, we feel the same way as far as we have 2 kids coming in from the 2020 class that basically showed interest in us throughout the summer, and we at the same time we knew, like, what, these kids have something. We're not all in on them yet, but they just kept emailing, kept showing up, kept calling, right? And it's like, yeah, we kind of like the kid, but all right, you know what? They got a little bit better, and they really want to come play and be a Bear.
Absolutely.
And we were like, yeah, that's the guy you want.
100%.
It goes a long way.
It does go a long way. So I think it's, in fairness, some of the other kids, we do let them know, hey, you're not a fit. But some of them, we kind of do leave it open. And they keep, badgering you, and it works. And, it's a rare or specific cases. But, yeah, somebody that really wants to be part of your program is awesome. It goes a long way.
Exactly. Instead of the guy that's, as you guys were saying, changing jerseys because he's not playing shortstop, and then what happens when he gets here and we move him to third base, and if he gets moved to the outfield, what is he going to do then?
Well, for us, too.
Is he going to want to leave? Is he not going to want to work? What's he going to do?
Chris says it all the time to our recruits when we bring them in. That kid that really wants to be there obviously values who we are and what our staff represents and what we're going to do for them. And that's important.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We want them to be just as interested in us as we are in them.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, go ahead.
No, I mean, Matt, so what kind of player are you guys looking for? What are you looking for in a player? Like physical skills-wise?
Okay, physical skills. So,
you don't have to share too many secrets. You can...
No. Let's talk offensively first and foremost. I mean, from a tool perspective, you're looking at guys that have bat speed a lot of the time, but having bat speed a lot of times makes you, more adjustable, and with teaching, you can develop a lot of different things. But we've also seen plenty of guys in our conference and some even on our own team that don't have the best bat speed but are good hitters. We want guys that are good hitters, not necessarily good swingers. So we're looking for guys that can produce, that can put, barrel on the baseball and be able to drive the ball to all fields. We're looking for, and it all depends. I mean, I hate the question of tools a lot of the time, insofar as, what do I need to run the 60 to come play at Maine? How hard do I need to throw to come and play at Maine?
The metrics,
I get those questions from coaches, sometimes from players, and it's, we need guys that are just good players. If you're 85 to 88 and you command both sides of the plate, bro, you and I were talking about this earlier, like, you were going to dominate in many conferences across college baseball, almost every single one of them.
Agreed.
If you're 90, 93 and you don't know where the ball is going to go,
you might not get an inning.
Exactly. So we see that all the time. So the best tool I think that we're looking for is guys that play the game the right way.
Right. How about? But you know what? And that's and I appreciate what he's saying, because that's the tangibles, right? That's like the substance, what it means. But if we are talking about like metrics, because a lot of stuff is about the timing, the velocity. On average, what would you say? If you had to guess, and I don't know if you can share this, what's the average 60 time for a kid in your program?
The average 60 time, I would say, is probably right around a 7 flat. And I'm sure some people are listening to that and going, "Oh my gosh, that's so slow."
Right.
But
that's because you got a couple burners.
6'4".
Right, that's a burner.
And then you got some bigger guys that are 7'3", 7'4".
Right.
But they're good players.
Right. And it's so funny because that's the D1 level, right? And us at the D2 level. I mean, and I think I want to be careful, like not to insult anyone, but like we had like 5 guys that were like 6'6" or better, right? I mean, or 6'7" or better.
The majority of our team runs under a 7 right now.
Right?
For whatever reason.
And that's
yeah.
at the D2 level.
Position players.
Position players, yeah.
Sure.
We have like 3 or 4 cloggers, some big dudes though.
Right, that drive the ball.
That drive the baseball, but our position players and every kid coming in, they're all sub-7.
Right.
One's a track star.
Right.
Sure. And just because you run well in the 60, we used to talk about this all the time, doesn't necessarily mean that you
Right.
get down the line.
Yeah,
well,
that's right. It doesn't equate, and that's where the tangibles come in, and then obviously, the development aspect of it as well. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is we had the conversation last night with a father talking about his son's exit velo, this, and maybe at your level, because maybe the velocities are higher. When I get an email that says, my son has an exit velo of X, or what's the other number they have, launch angle of this, I don't read it. I don't care. I don't know what that means. I don't care.
In my opinion, I don't care either, because I just want a kid that's a good player. Like, if you hit the ball 100 miles an hour off the tee,
Right.
that's all well and good.
Yeah.
Well, I played in
hit the ball
AAA,
barrel
and
of
they
balls
wouldn't have let me
basic
play.
pitching.
Well, that's a great point. So
They would not have let me play if
Yeah.
it was based on metrics.
Yeah, because hitting the
But I could drive a baseball because I was on time, or, if he threw a 95 mile an hour fastball right down the middle, I'm all over that thing at 150 pounds, right? But
Sure.
there's no way my exit velo was good. There's no way.
Sure.
So
And that's not to knock the players that are successful in those metrics. I think that's the other side of it too, right?
Right,
So,
it's a 2-part thing. That's what it
Right.
is. You're working to enhance those physical attributes and tools, but at the end of the day, if you cannot utilize them in a game scenario, they are absolutely meaningless.
Sure. And you could have 2 6'5" runners. One guy gets down the line and he's a 3.940 down the line from the right side, and one guy's a 4.5 down the line.
Right, yeah, sure. That's,
And that happens.
It doesn't translate to the baseball
It's
field.
not super common, but it happens. And some guys that are very fast are track stars and don't know how to run the bases. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that might be listening. If there are people, I'm kidding on that one, but there's plenty of people listening that might be thinking to themselves, yes, I throw 75 miles an hour, and I'm a 7'8" runner, and I do this and I do that. That means that, if I just do the mechanical stuff right, that I'm going to get recruited, and not necessarily.
right.
No, the
just
speed
might
of the
not be
game is
ready
of such that
yet.
Right, no, look,
do
we
have
all
certain
covered
things.
this. So, I talk about this. I actually posted something on Instagram talking about, as it relates to velocity in pitching, right? We all chase it. We all covered it, either as players, either as coaches, recruiters, scouts. You're always looking for it, right? And this was as it related to Randy Johnson. He talked about, he had every ounce of physical ability, right? Could throw the ball 100 miles an hour, could spin it like a devil, right? And he said what he took greater pleasure in is at the end of his career when he was 87, 88, and he can locate the ball wherever the hell he wanted to and still get the double play. That's what made him feel more accomplished.
Absolutely.
So yes, you chase all these measurements and these tools, these metrics, but getting it done is that's just the bottom line, So I think that's great stuff right there, Matt. Thanks for that insight.
Absolutely.
I think I wanted to. This was great, and I know we've been hammering at this now for how long have we been at this, Josh? What's this?
Hour 8.
All right, so it's
really a big subject.
It is a big subject, and I think we got to come back to this again.
Yes, we will.
I don't necessarily want to because I wanted for you to talk about the JUCO stuff. So Matt, bear with us, and if you hear something, feel free to chime in. But first of all, I want to say thank you for making time for us today. Thank you for being the first guest, because it's probably the most appropriate person that could have been involved in the podcast as a guest. And
it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Good. And people who know Matt, this guy, I said it before, he's a beast. Yep. He's gonna be at every single event possible. And how many days off did you have last summer, Matt?
So I did 75 out of 85 days, and there were a couple quiet periods that were in there. So on those off days, and I think I'm about the same. I have a girlfriend now. I don't want to tell her that yet, but that's coming. So.
All right.
Well, and so yeah, then when he comes home, him and I will go out and grab a drink or something, and all we do is talk baseball on top of that.
Yeah.
I guess you're not gonna hang out with me anymore. Great.
No, I'll definitely still be joining you, and because and you guys can, I appreciate all the kind words, but the things that you three have done for me over the years have been absolutely tremendous, and I know, and I say it to you guys all the time, that I would never be where I am right now if it weren't for you three guys.
Well, you get what you earn.
Thank you again for everything. No, don't say I would, because I know I wouldn't. I'd be hanging out, probably working in the finance world. So thank you.
Yeah, too bad you'd be rich.
I wasn't very good at that, so.
I will appreciate you, man. So just feel free to hang in and.
Sure. Do you want to do the JUCO story now? I mean, I think we could.
You want to do that another time?
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
What do you think,
that.
Josh? Yeah, we could circle back, right? I mean, because there's more to cover on this, right? I mean.
Yeah, I think we could do a whole other podcast on this.
Yeah, right.
And
that's a good point.
And we have the Wild Pitch on Instagram.
Yep.
So for our listeners, follow us, but ask questions. Reach out. Based off of this segment, if you guys have some questions that pertain to recruiting,
sure. Josh, tell
please.
everybody where they can kind of get snippets of us or find
You can follow us on Instagram at Wild Pitch Podcast, which is it's at Wild Pitch Pod is the actual username. You can follow us on Tri-State Arsenal NY on Instagram, and Arsenal NY on Twitter. Tri-State Arsenal New York on Facebook. And we're gonna be posting stuff from all the podcasts and content on there, and you can listen to the whole thing on Spotify and Podbean and a bunch of other podcasts.
soon to be
And
iTunes too, right?
if you're enjoying the podcast, leave some reviews.
Yeah, and if you're not, and if you think it stinks, let us know that as well, so that we can make it better. So,
Yep.
we're all former professionals here. It's about making adjustments, man.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But wrap us up.
No, we're going to come back to this. This is we didn't even get to half of our stuff, and it is the most important subject. So we look forward to getting to doing that again, and maybe we'll even do it next time.
Well, thanks for listening to the Wild Pitch, and we'll be back again, folks.
Thank you, Matty Marsh. You'll be on again.
Thank you for having me. Love to.
All right.
Good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
See ya.
Thanks.